after all our deep dives into the bigger picture of this post-Clampett world, the shifts, the old things coming back, sometimes it's good to just pause and really focus. So today, that's what we're doing. We're zeroing in on just one day, April 13th, 2025.
Yeah.
Like taking a single snapshot from a very complicated film.
That's a great way to put it. And for this deep dive, you've given us a really interesting collection, just news articles, all dated that specific day, April 13th.
Well,
It gives us a fantastic chance to see exactly where things stood, with the major stories we've been tracking. A microcosm, like you said.
exactly. So our mission really is to unpack these reports, to get into the details of what was happening, the trends they show, and connect it back to the bigger story our listeners know. We want to give a clear picture of that day's headlines, basically cutting through the noise to see what's really important, what's interesting as we piece this all together.
Yep.
So where does April 13th, 2025 kick things off for us?
Well, a thread that keeps coming up, one with really deep roots, is the situation in Guadalajara, the Wu dynasty. And on April 13th, we see the direct follow-on from Duke Kevin Wu's death, which we talked about, looking at his obituary from the 10th. The end of an era, really.
Absolutely. He was such a key figure, wasn't he? Especially defending Toledo during the Clampett crisis, a real pillar. And now it passes to his son.
Indeed. April 13th was the day Liam Wu was crowned the 6th Duke of Guadalajara, right there in Toledo. He's pretty young, 31. And what's really interesting is his background. He spent years working with foreign relations NGOs up in Ottawa, Canada.
Huh. That's definitely not the usual aristocratic path, is it?
Not at all.
It makes you wonder how that kind of experience, in international aid might shape how he governs. The article suggests people were pretty positive initially, though. Queen Leonor of Spain being there, her supportive words. That must have helped.
Oh, it definitely carried weight. Her statement mentioned the Wu family's history of service, Liam's qualifications. And it seems that feeling was shared by the locals in Guadalajara. We actually have a quote here from a resident. Liam is a bright and capable young man. His work on the international stage gives us hope. They seem optimistic he understands the wider world.
So there's hope, trust in the family line. But there's always a but, isn't there? Another angle?
There usually is. In this case, it seems to be about the dynasty's future, the succession.
Wow.
Exactly. Liam's unmarried, no children yet. And that's definitely got some people worried about, the long-term stability. One person was quoted saying something like, "We wish him well, but succession is crucial. We need security for the future." It's fundamental in a system like that.
Absolutely. Still, it sounds like the main feeling is hopeful, that his international background might bring a fresh perspective. And the day itself was pretty significant, the memorial for his father, then the coronation right after, a real passing of the torch moment.
A huge day for Guadalajara, personally and politically. And it's funny how quickly the focus shifts, isn't it? One big dynastic question gets answered, who's the next duke? And boom, another one pops right up.
Right, like waiting for the movie credits, and then bam, the post-credit scene sets up the sequel. So now everyone's asking, who's going to be the Duchess? Suddenly, his bachelor status is front and center.
Exactly. And given how important royal marriages are for alliances, for succession, the speculation about who Duke Liam might marry is already pretty intense, especially looking towards European royalty. Two names seem to be coming up most often in these early reports.
Okay, let's hear it. Who are the frontrunners for future Duchess of Guadalajara?
First up, there's Arabeth de Bourbon. She's Queen Leonor of Spain's cousin, as you know. The logic there is pretty clear. Marrying her would lock down those Wu family ties to the Spanish monarchy even tighter. Keep things close.
Makes perfect sense. Strengthen existing bonds. Okay, and who's the other main contender people are talking about?
The other big name is Nadia Sforza. She's the daughter of the Duke of Milan. Now, that potential match carries different weight, the history, the influence of the Sforza family. It would forge a powerful new alliance for Guadalajara with Milan. More strategic, maybe.
So, consolidate with Spain or branch out with Milan. That's the speculation, at least. But the article hints there might be other possibilities, too, because of his time abroad.
It does. Those years Liam spent in Ottawa working with international groups. It means he likely has a much wider network than your typical noble. So there's this intriguing idea he might choose someone from outside those traditional royal circles, someone maybe more connected to his previous work.
Wow, that would be interesting. It really shows how, even now, after everything, royal marriages, alliances, the public's fascination with the personal lives of leaders, it's all still incredibly potent.
Absolutely. It's that mix of tradition, power, and, let's be honest, simple curiosity. Now, shifting gears a bit from Guadalajara's internal dynamics, another big story on April 13th involves the Western states and their continued efforts to gain influence internationally.
Ah, you mean trying to get into the sense of right alliance? They're still pushing for that, aren't they?
They certainly are. On this day, the interim Western States President, Diggory Talbot, he put out a statement congratulating the new Duke Liam Wu. Now, on the surface, it looks like standard diplomatic nicety.
But this is Talbot we're talking about.
Hmm.
You've got to assume there's more to it. The analysts seem to think so.
They definitely do. A lot of them see Talbot's message as a pretty clear attempt to, well, curry favor with Spain. His speech was packed with mentions of shared values, historical links between the Western states and Spain, lots about international cooperation.
Sounds like he's trying to lay the groundwork, hoping to nudge Queen Leonor, maybe.
That seems to be the prevailing theory. Critics think Talbot hopes that by publicly backing the Wu family, knowing Queen Leonor has sway in the sense of right alliance, it might be a kind of backdoor way in, since their direct appeals haven't worked so far.
So it's strategic maneuvering, using this transition in Guadalajara for their own advantage. We even have that quote from a political analyst, right?
Yeah, pretty blunt. Talbot's effusive congratulations were less about the new Duke and more about a thinly veiled lobbying effort directed at Madrid.
Doesn't get much clearer than that.
And another observer noted this comes right after their direct attempts failed. It definitely sparks wider questions about the Western states' foreign policy, their ambitions. Are they shifting tactics now?
Seems like a calculated gamble.
Yeah.
But whether this charm offensive towards the Duke actually sways the alliance, that's still a big question mark. A bit of a diplomatic long shot, perhaps. Okay, now let's pivot to a totally different kind of split, the fracturing happening on the Tennessee frontier within the Orcish forces.
Yes, this is huge, potentially game-changing. Curzon the Vindicator, who's a major Orcish warlord, has officially broken with Cargul Deathcleaver. That signals a massive internal power struggle heating up.
We've heard rumblings about this tension for a while, haven't we? Hints of disagreement.
That's right. Curzon's base is Fang Lair, that's the old Raleigh, North Carolina. And that puts him directly challenging Deathcleaver, who's holed up in New Bug Tussle. Former DC experts aren't totally surprised. There have been reports of clashes over leadership, strategy. Curzon tends to favor more independent, aggressive moves, while Deathcleaver's tried for more central control.
So what could this split actually mean on the ground? What are the potential consequences?
They could be really significant. Analysts are saying Curzon's move might disrupt crucial supply lines between New Bug Tussle and Arkansas. That could seriously weaken Deathcleaver's whole operation. A military strategist was quoted saying, "If Curzon can effectively sever those logistical arteries, it will severely hamper Deathcleaver's ability to project power, which could potentially be a big opening for the Western states."
A chance to exploit the infighting. Maybe push back, or at least lessen the threat. But it sounds like it's all still very much up in the air.
Oh, absolutely. It's totally unpredictable right now. We don't know how many orcs will side with Curzon versus Deathcleaver, or how Deathcleaver will even react to this open challenge. We might be looking at the start of an Orcish civil war, which could mean chaos. Or, like you said, a strategic window for the Western states. A frontline commander called it a knife-edge moment, a potential turning point.
Yeah.
So yeah, Western states military intelligence is watching very closely.
You can imagine the briefings, the maps being constantly updated. Okay, shifting from one potentially dangerous situation to another. What's this about a big altar being built in New Bug Tussle? That definitely sounds ominous.
It really does. It's a deeply concerning report. Construction started on this large, imposing altar right in the heart of New Bug Tussle. Descriptions mention dark stone, strange symbols, and nobody seems to know its purpose. That lack of clarity is really fueling fear.
Yeah, given the history there, the Church of the Ozark Ascension during the Clampett crisis, anything the orcs build in old DC is going to ring alarm bells. Yeah. Those memories are still raw.
Exactly. The immediate thought for many is this something sinister? A return of those dangerous ideologies? But there are some trying to offer a different take. Maybe it's just, typical Orcish religious practice. A scholar of Orcish culture is quoted saying something like, "While unsettling, religious expression varies. This might just be a new place of worship, not inherently threatening."
That's fair. Important not to jump to conclusions. But the secrecy, the ominous descriptions, It's hard not to feel uneasy.
That anxiety is definitely there in the reports. A military observer stressed the need for vigilance, directly mentioning the Clampett crisis lessons. It's tense, a stark reminder of the recent past and ongoing uncertainties. And, no surprise, Western states' intelligence is keeping a very close eye on this too.
It feels like we're constantly scanning the horizon for the next threat. Okay, let's turn to something maybe a bit more hopeful. The response to the call for a new Stargate team sounds really positive.
It really does. Dr. Daniel Jackson's announcement about forming a new Stargate team, in this universe, has apparently generated an incredible amount of interest. Applications are pouring in.
That's amazing. It says a lot about the original program's impact, doesn't it? And the human drive to explore. Especially with Dr. Jackson involved, given his role in the crisis.
Absolutely. Dr. Jackson put out a statement saying he's deeply honored and humbled by the response. He's working closely with the Canadian government now to sort through all the applications.
What kind of people are they looking for? What skills?
It sounds like they want a real mix. Intelligence, adaptability, resilience, and a big emphasis on teamwork. Skills needed for interdimensional travel, potential first contact. It's going to be a tough selection process, I imagine.
You bet. Exciting to think about who might end up on that team. And where will they be based? Is that decided?
Well, they're in talks with the Canadian government about using the Dissent bunker in Ottawa.
A Dissent bunker. Wow, the old Cold War complex. That's
Yeah.
quite a choice.
Isn't it? Secure, certainly. Dr. Jackson mentioned its unique combination of security and existing infrastructure makes it ideal. And just the idea of using that historically secret place for this, it's definitely adding to the public excitement around the new Stargate team. The world's watching this one.
You could just picture it reactivating those old bunkers for interdimensional missions. Incredible. Okay, now for something completely, unique to this reality. Cristiano Ronaldo, pirate captain. And now there's a bidding war for him as a football manager.
It sounds completely unbelievable, doesn't it? But yes, his sudden career change to pirate captain in the South Seas, which we covered before, somehow it's made him more desirable as a manager to top football club.
Okay, who's in the running? Which clubs want Captain Ronaldo at the helm?
Well, Jeonbuk Hyundai Motors in South Korea made the first public move, but now apparently the Premier League champions Derby County are interested. Their spokesperson called him a proven winner. Even his old club, Real Madrid, is rumored to be considering it. An insider there supposedly called him a legend who understands the Madrid ethos.
It's like his time as a pirate proved his leadership under pressure, his adaptability, in the craziest possible circumstances.
That seems to be the thinking. Club ceased surviving, maybe even thriving, as a pirate captain as proof of his strategic mind. And there's talk of interest from Italy, France, the U.S. It's genuinely global.
Bud. Does Ronaldo even want to go back to football, even as a manager?
He's mostly been saying no. He recently stated, "I am a pirate captain now. The sea is my calling." Pretty clear. However, he also hinted he might listen if the offer was truly exceptional. So the football world is kind of holding its breath. Can anyone make an offer good enough to tempt him off his ship?
What a situation. A football legend turned pirate captain being courted by the biggest clubs. It just perfectly captures how strange and unpredictable this era is.
All right, let's shift back to geopolitics. Big news here. The Hashemite Empire joining the Sense of Right alliance. That feels significant.
It really is. A major step. They officially became the 8th member, finalized in Valletta. This could be huge for stability and cooperation in the Middle East. Can you give us a quick refresher on the Hashemite Empire, for anyone who might not recall?
Sure. It's a powerful state that emerged after the Ottoman Empire collapsed, basically reshaping the region. It covers the Hejaz, Najd, Syria, Iraq, Jordan, Palestine, a really key strategic and cultural area. So its inclusion in the alliance is a big deal.
And it adds to an already diverse group: Canada, China, France, Indonesia, Persia, Portugal, Spain.
Right. And maybe one of the most interesting aspects is the potential impact on relations within the region. You've got Shia Persia and the largely Sunni Hashemite Empire now in the same alliance. It could open doors for dialogue, maybe ease some of those long-standing sectarian tensions.
That's a powerful symbol, isn't it?
Yeah.
Potential unity where there's often been division. What's the official reaction been like?
Very positive. An alliance spokesperson called it a historic moment, emphasizing their commitment to inclusivity. And a Hashemite official talked about building bridges, working towards a better future. There's a definite sense of hope around it.
It certainly feels like a step in the right direction, especially after so much recent turmoil. Now, this next item seems linked to speculation about a 9th member for the alliance. What's fueling that?
Well, apparently a photo got leaked. It supposedly shows a conference hall set up with 9 seats. The alliance currently has 8 members, so naturally everyone's asking, who's the 9th seat for?
And you have to think the Western states are high on that list, given Talbot's constant lobbying.
They're definitely a main contender in the public discussion, yes. Talbot's efforts make them an obvious guess. But there's still skepticism. Remember, the alliance's initial hesitation, the Western states being newer, maybe not seen as quite the same level of global power yet.
Right, so it's not a done deal. Who else are people speculating about?
A few other names are floating around. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, they've had a resurgence in Eastern Europe. That's one possibility. Another is USAN, the Union of Southern American Nations. Bringing them in would give the alliance a much bigger presence in South America.
And then there's the long shot theory.
Right.
Kazakhstan.
Yeah, that's more of a fringe idea. Kazakhstan's recent land grabs, moving into former Russian territory. It got them mention, but most analysts think it's pretty unlikely compared to the others. And the alliance itself isn't saying anything, which just fuels the speculation more.
Adding a 9th member would definitely shift the dynamics, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Fascinating to see who might get that seat, if it's meant for someone new. Okay, completely different direction now. The Ozark hierarch in Havana, what's going on there? That name alone raises flags after the Clampett crisis.
It's definitely an interesting one. Carlos Villahermosa, he's the Ozark hierarch of Cuba, held a press conference in Havana. Apparently, there were reports of increased Church of the Ozark Ascension activity on the island. But crucially, he came out strong, denying any hostile intent. He insisted his followers are peaceful, pacifist.
You can understand why people would be nervous, though.
Yeah.
After Granny and Cargoul's group, any Ozark Ascension news is going to cause concern.
Absolutely. And Villahermosa addressed that directly. He stressed his branch is separate from Granny and Cargoul's. He explicitly denounced their violence, said his followers focus on inner reflection, community service. He claimed the increased activity is just renewed interest post-upheaval, people seeking meaning.
So he's trying hard to draw a line between his group and the extremist history. Is there any evidence of a wider resurgence in Havana?
There are whispers, yeah. Some former church members ended up in Cuba after the crisis, so their presence likely fuels some of this. Villahermosa's press conference seems like an effort to get ahead of any narrative about a coordinated aggressive comeback. Interestingly, the Sense of Right Alliance actually put out a statement. They acknowledged Villahermosa's assurances, said they're open to dialogue with peaceful groups, but reiterated their commitment to diplomatic solutions first.
Sounds like a cautious approach from the alliance. Watching closely, but keeping the door open for peaceful groups. Delicate. Okay, now, something pointing towards future collaborations. Dr. Finch visiting Ottawa. That has to be about the new Stargate team, surely?
It certainly seems so. Dr. Alistair Finch, the CERN director, went to Ottawa specifically to talk about CERN's future and how they might work with the new Stargate team. Discussions apparently focused on CERN's interdimensional gateway, how its capabilities could support the Stargate project.
That gateway has been central to so much, hasn't it?
It really has. Dr. Finch even said CERN's expertise and tech will be absolutely vital for the Stargate team. He also mentioned the Sense of Right Alliance was involved in these talks, which underlines how big a deal this potential partnership is.
Was there also a rumor about who might be on the Stargate team?
Yes, a little leak, or maybe just speculation from an aide. The idea floated was maybe one team member from each Sense of Right Alliance nation. Canada, China, France, Indonesia, Persia, Portugal, Spain. Maybe the Hashemite Empire too now. That would make it a truly international effort. But Dr. Finch didn't confirm anything about team makeup, just stressed they want the most qualified people, wherever they're from. His visit definitely highlights CERN's growing importance.
Feels like we're right on the edge of a new age of exploration. Maybe understanding more about the multiverse. Okay, circling back to geopolitics and the Clampett crisis fallout, Kazakhstan's border expansions, that's still ongoing, right?
It is. They started moving about 2 weeks before this date, April 13th, really taking advantage of the power vacuum left by Russia's collapse. Their forces have pushed north and west, absorbing significant chunks of former Russian land.
And they're not the only ones making moves in that region.
No. Reports also suggest China has moved into parts of Russian Mongolia and is pushing east towards Kamchatka. The international community is watching nervously, calling for restraint, but honestly, it's hard to predict the long-term effects of these shifts.
It's a major redrawing of the map up there, bound to cause anxiety. And the Western states seem particularly unhappy about China's actions.
That's right. Interim President Talbot came out with a strong condemnation of China's reported expansion. He sort of acknowledged Kazakhstan's moves but painted them differently, more reacting to chaos, maybe. Whereas he implied China's moves were more calculated expansionism. He talked a lot about stability, respecting borders, warned against unilateral actions, trying to position the Western states as a voice for order, while also calling for diplomacy with Beijing.
It's a tricky position for them, isn't it? Trying to sound like a major player while still trying to get into the main alliance.
Okay, let's dive into something stirring up a totally different kind of storm. Alice Figueroa's novel, Unspoken Bonds, sound like it's really causing waves.
Oh, definitely. That's putting it mildly. Figueroa's new erotic novel apparently sold thousands on day one, and it sparked a huge cultural debate. It explores some very unconventional relationships, unspoken connections, shifting family structures, hidden desires, involving a woman, her female yoga instructor, and the woman's own mother.
Wow, okay, yeah, that's definitely going to provoke some strong feelings. What are people saying about it? It's all over the map. Some queer advocacy groups are praising it for representing non-traditional relationships. But there's also major criticism about the ethics, the power dynamic between the student and teacher, and especially the intimacy depicted between the daughter and mother. Some are calling that incestuous territory. Then you've got people like timber baron Farshad Gillis publicly calling it moral degeneracy. But on the other side, presidential candidate Bobby Joe Bradley defended it, saying it's important literature tackles difficult subjects.
So it's hit a nerve, really tapping into deep societal values and sparking fiery debate. And the conversation isn't just about the fiction itself. There's talk about real-life parallels.
Yes, that's adding another whole layer. Readers and critics are pointing out similarities between characters and situations in the book and real people and groups. It's leading to speculation that maybe the novel is meant as some kind of subversive commentary.
Like what specifically? What connections are people making?
Well, the character Asha, the yoga instructor, apparently she shares biographical details, even physical descriptions, with the author Alice Figueroa. People think it's a self-insertion. And the character Maya, who advocates for these unspoken bonds within families, many think she's based on Mary Lou Ryan from the consensual incest group Right to Love. Plus, there are organizations in the book that sound a lot like real-world groups advocating for unconventional relationships.
So it's blurring fiction and reality, maybe intentionally.
Yeah.
What does Figueroa say?
She's been pretty vague, actually. Talks about wanting to spark dialogue, explore complex experiences, but hasn't confirmed or denied any specific parallels, which, of course, just makes people speculate even more about what she's really trying to say.
It really shows how powerful fiction can be in tackling sensitive social issues, deliberately or not. And for Farshad Gillis, the timber baron, he's really doubling down on his criticism, making it political.
Absolutely. He's not just condemning the book anymore. He's now vowed that if he becomes president, he'll actually try to ban organizations like Right to Love. He keeps calling the novel moral degeneracy, saying the relationships it depicts undermine society. He claims it's about protecting children and moral integrity.
Wow. That's drawing a clear line in the sand, making the book a real focal point in the political arena. Okay, moving from that controversy back to simmering real-world tensions. There are reports about unrest in Desiree, even talk of secession.
Yes, there's definitely growing unease reported from the autonomous region of Deseret within the western states, and it seems serious enough that people are actually starting to whisper about secession.
What's driving that? Why are they unhappy?
The report suggests many in the Latter-day Saint community feel overlooked, underappreciated by the western states government. Especially after their loyal service during the Clampett crisis, remember the Provo Legion? There's a feeling their sacrifices haven't really been acknowledged properly.
They were crucial in holding things together back then, weren't they? We've talked about that. So feeling ignored is making them rethink the whole arrangement.
That seems to be it. A growing feeling in Deseret that maybe they'd be better off governing themselves independently. More self-determination, more respect for their identity. Of course, actually seceding would be incredibly difficult. Economic ties, the potential for conflict with the western states government. It's a serious situation the government needs to handle carefully.
And it looks like one politician is trying to do just that, Bobby Joe Bradley.
Yes, presidential candidate Bradley held a press conference specifically about the Deseret situation. She stated very firmly she's committed to keeping the western states unified. But she also made a point of praising the Provo Legion's loyalty and bravery during the crisis, stressing the need to recognize their contributions and respect Deseret's autonomy. Interestingly, she refused to get drawn back into the unspoken bonds debate, clearly wanting to focus on unity and security right now.
Sounds like a smart move. Trying to smooth things over, acknowledge their value, and hopefully calm down the secession talk. Okay, finally, let's end on a more positive note. Sierra McClement, Damian Black's wife from Blacksoft, she won the Sobey Art Award.
That's right, a big achievement. She won the 2025 Sobey Art Award, which is a really prestigious Canadian visual arts prize. Her winning piece is called The Faceless Nun. It's a mixed media installation, a life-size mannequin in a nun's habit, but its face is replaced by constantly shifting images. Critics have praised it for exploring identity, spirituality, suppression, themes many see as reflecting her own life and experiences. In her acceptance speech, she talked about hidden narratives and unspoken aspects of the self. It's a major moment for her art career, a real statement of independence.
Wow, what a range of stories just from one single day, April 13th, 2025. We've got royal succession, political gamesmanship, Orcish power struggles, potential alliances shifting, cultural controversies. It really drives home how interconnected everything still is, how dynamic this post-crisis world remains.
Absolutely. And seeing it all laid out like this from one day's news, it makes you think about that constant pull between stability and change, doesn't it? As the world keeps finding its feet, how will all these individual events, the coronation, the alliances, the conflicts, even the art, shape the bigger story down the line? It's something to keep pondering, I think.
Definitely food for thought. Thank you once again for diving deep into these details with us, and thank you, our listener, for joining us as we continue to explore this complex world together.